Welcome to the place of rest, where our aim is to give you language that helps you displace the growing confusion, chaos, and dis-ease of our times. In today's episode, Virginia discusses how to displace the technocratic dependency ravaging the modern family system by applying R.E.S.T principles to set ourselves free and benefit the next generation. We hope you enjoy today's conversation.
I just came back from this remarkable trip to the inner city of Philadelphia. A slow shift has occurred in the rhythms of how we do family, and leaving many inner city children coming home to empty homes and exhausted single parents. I think that kind of dynamic, it's more commonplace all over America. And this affects the development of a child in significant ways because fundamentally they're alone and they don't have the resources developmentally, intellectually, spiritually, academically to really navigate a lot of the responsibilities that are placed upon them sometimes. And they don't know how to navigate the black hole that's left in the home when parents aren't present. So I think to some extent, we all need to think about how this reality, this growing reality, has informed even our own lives and our own personal experiences. Children find, from my observation and my work and the literature, the things I've read, the things I've encountered, is really a little bit more insecure, a little bit more fearful. There's a sense of loneliness. They tend to have a little bit more of a crisis of identity, perhaps, than children that are active and that have a mom and a dad. Because let's just call it what it is. I grew up in a single parent home. I was raised by my father because my mom left shortly after we came to America. And I'd say this overwhelming sense of fear, the cloud of the unknown, feeling a measure of loneliness and responsibility, overwhelming responsibility for the management of the home, the stuff we ate, what we did, the TV just not being on all day, feeling like it would waste our time in our life, and just an overwhelming sense of responsibility, but not having the resources to really manage all those responsibilities. The flip side of that, however, is you do develop a sense of things that have to get done, because if you don't do them, nobody's going to do them, because dad's working, mom's working. So I have to pick up the slack. When I was growing up, we didn't have all the distractions that children have today. Cell phones, computers, and just technology has hit us like a tsunami. So I think the developmental implications of and the distractions that come with technology, I think they've had really significant impact on what's happening to this generation that's growing up in half of the country's growing up in a single family home. And in the inner cities, parents sometimes have 2 and 3 jobs. So they become facilitators more or less in the life of their children instead of parents. It's hard to parent when you're exhausted, you're tired, and you run out of hours in a day before the kids have to, if you're lucky, you get to the homework, and if you're lucky, you sit down and have a meal together. But to go beyond that, it becomes very, very difficult. Although I don't think it's a hopeless situation because I do think there are fundamental principles that become instrumental in helping both the taxed parents. It's not just single family homes that are maxed out and taxed and burned out and confused and tired and overwhelmed by the burden of the financial shifts that we've experienced, social and financial and spiritual shifts that we've experienced. But I do think some of the core of the curriculum and the work that we do can establish a rhythm of rest and hope and perspective in the lives both of the parents and the children. I think we have to identify the problem for what it is. And that is, this isn't just happening to families of inner city children. It's happening to all of us to some extent because everything has become taxing. The weight and the burden of every institution, the shift in every institution has been palatable to us. And we don't have time to get into that. And our children are a mirror to us. So if there's things in our kids and there's behavior modification things that need to be taken into account, instead of looking at them and saying, what's wrong with them? And I need to take them to therapy or counselor or whatever. I think I would invite parents that are listening to first look at yourself because your children are a mirror to you. And the story of the story of the story of the home of the home of the home of your parents. So compounded by the dynamics that we're experiencing with the influx of technology and just we're an attention deficit generation. There are distractions, the likes of which we never imagined that are having significant implications of our children. But you are the parents are the authority in the home. So what the parents do and say and how they respond to this and how they govern their own lives is probably the most significant socializing agent in the life of their children. In the most practical way, I think when kids come home from school, the phone should be shut off and put down. 100%, absolutely. There should be required family and interaction time. They've been in school all day. There isn't a single reason why an elementary school child, for example, has to have their phone constantly on them. Not one single reason. The purpose of that phone in today's day and age, from what I hear from parents, is so they can have access to their children. So if anything happens, their children can be in contact with them. So when they're home and everybody's home, there's no reason for the phone to be constantly on. It's a matter of fact, it's imperative, I think, that the phones be turned off so that they can get to just quiet, some contemplative space about reflecting on their day and conversations and curriculums and things they need to do and think and get to with their parents. But the parents need to follow suit and do that as well and put their phones down. Maybe it goes in a basket. Maybe it goes in a console when they walk in the door. But there has to be a shift of activity of what everybody does when they come in the front door. Basically, the parents have to exercise lawful authority and power in the home. They have to govern the home because they can't be shocked by their children's inability to self-govern if the parents don't model what that looks like in the home. So if you don't have the rhythm of life-giving activities in the home that you model, you can't expect it from your children. And if you can't be home when they come home, I think it's imperative that there is expectations and a sense of accountability to the expectations. You've got to give them tasks, responsibilities, and things like that. Because if not, they're going to become like zombies. Our kids are becoming zombies. I can't tell you, this last week, I had phone calls. I had text messages, excuse me. All referrals from past clients that we've helped them in one fashion or another. But every single one of those texts that came in to me while I was in Brooklyn, every single one of them had to do with deep concern over their children's disengagement and almost they can't get their kids out of their room. They can't get them to put their phone down. It's a fight to get them to come have dinner. And it didn't matter if it was at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, or 9 o'clock at night. It's a fight. We are in crisis. The family is completely taxed. We are completely overwhelmed by incredible, there's a lot on us. Based on what I just said, I'll just cut right to the chase. We have to become the product of the product. If the aim is to displace the growing confusion, chaos, and dis-ease of the world around us, we need to become intentional in our own personal lives to decide the 1, 2, 3, 4 things we are going to absolutely change. One of them is I will come home to have dinner with my children, no matter what. If I have to change my job, if I have to leave early, if I have to have a conversation with my boss, I need to be home to enjoy dinner with my children. Number 2, when I step in the door of my home, my kids have to see notable changes in me and in my behavior. What are those going to be? And by the way, if you don't have children, start developing these disciplines for yourself. One of those things might be, I am not going to commit to get on my computer and return phone calls or anything like that once I set foot in my home. It's just not going to happen. Because think about what technology has done to us as adults. We really never stop. It's tempting when we wake up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, instead of going to pick up our Bibles or our journals or quiet time or a cup of tea, just reflect, sit under a tree. What do? Check our emails, check our messages, check our texts that come in. And then what do? We can start going crazy at 4:30 and 5 in the morning and never skip a beat. And before you know it, when we look up, it's like 8. Shoot, I have to leave by 8:30. And then we don't stop till we come home, we leave the office 6, 7, 8, whatever. And then we come and the cycle starts all over again. And so when are we really showing up for our kids? So they have to see the change in us in very specific, tangible ways. I'm going to be really practical. Take inventory of your own personal life if you're listening to this podcast, whether you have children or not. Because this dilemma, this drama we're having with technology, this ongoing conversation we have with technology is not going to go away. So we have to take inventory of ourselves. Well, who are we? Who am I? What causes me to do what I do? We go back to the conversation of the terrain that we've been discussing. We have a spirit, a soul, and a body. We have 3 different terrains that make up our whole constitution. You need to take inventory of the things that are obstructing you from becoming a human being and becoming and acting and living out this mechanical kind of artificial life that's burning you out, causing you to drink and be on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication. You've got to take inventory of yourself, because if not, these things that you think are hidden in your private life are not. They're obvious to everybody around you. That you're maxed out, burned out, a stress case. And if you're medicated and drinking, I'm telling you, it's not a secret to anybody that's dealing with you. So I would invite everyone in the most practical ways to take inventory of what's happening to them spiritually, psychologically, and how it's showing up physically in their lives. I mean, that's as simple as sitting down and writing spirit, soul, body. Right now, sit down and take inventory of what that looks like in your life. If you have children and you're looking at your children, what's happening to their little spirit, to them psychologically, to them physically, do the same. Write down the 3 same terrains that make up their little bodies, their whole person, and take inventory of what you see for each of your individual kids in those areas. And then you're going to see why it becomes so important, not so much what you do, not so much what you say to your kids, what you're teaching your kids, and what you are doing for your children. Those things aren't as important as what they are watching, what they are observing, what they're picking up by how you live. So if we're going to fix the crisis that we're experiencing in our families, in our communities, and certainly the crisis that we're seeing in our inner cities, right? We've got to make these otherwise abstract principles, if you will, solid and practical. So in closing, I would just say the spirit, the soul, the body, write those things down on a piece of paper and take inventory of what you think, what you do, how you live, and how you show up for relationships. Because nothing is hidden from your children and nothing is hidden from your colleagues. You think perhaps that these are private dynamics that you're negotiating in your private life, but they're not. People just don't say anything to you. So we've got to repair the leaks, if you will, and change the rhythm of our lives so that our spheres of influence can be quickly impacted by the transformative change that we intentionally take in our own lives. Let me just say this in closing, which it's easy to look at our inner cities because there's such a great concentration of everything else we experience in all these other areas of our lives, okay? I think if we're real honest with ourselves, when we look at the dynamic of the inner city dynamic and how do we apply these principles of rest, these principles that can be abstract, and how do we make them practical, I would invite everyone listening to think about the correlation, the connection, the similarities of what we're observing, the confusion, the chaos, the dis-ease in inner cities and how it plays out. And there's nobody basically home. And kids are left really without a lot of resources to fend for themselves. But when you really think about it, and we take inventory of our own personal lives, where we have pain and we have trauma and we have a myriad of tough experiences and things. Look, it comes with being a human being. It comes with being alive, right? But perhaps we're absent and we've vacated the inner chambers of our own soul in similar ways, and we find ourselves in a similar state.
We hope listening to this episode has brought you closer to experiencing the freedom of wholeness and healing. If you have questions or comments about today's episode, or for updates about R.E.S.T, please visit our Instagram or Facebook at The Place of R.E.S.T. If you would like more information about Virginia, or to support and join the cause of R.E.S.T, please go to theplaceofrest.com/donate or call 949-289-5935. Thank you for listening to Rest with Virginia Dixon. We'll see you next week.